beautiful, wise, and wild souls. My name is Brianna Jolie. I am a spiritual mentor, teacher, guide, and channel that helps souls to reconnect with their most wild self. In essence, your soul. In this video, I'm so excited to be back after I had the most amazing soul immersion experience and trip to Finland on a retreat with my dear friend Ashley Wood inside of her company ALNWITHIN, with many other powerful, beautiful souls that changed a huge part of my life, my mission, and my purpose in this next chapter. In this video, I want to share some pieces of that experience with you, but most importantly, what I walked away with after having an experience like that. And to encourage you that you don't need to go on a spiritual retreat to Finland to discover these things. For me, that was in alignment with my path to learn that lesson through that experience. But you can learn a lot of what I share today in whatever way that aligns for you or comes through for you. So to get started, I want to share a little bit about before I made my way to Finland with ALNWITHIN. This experience I said yes to in November 2020. And the months leading up to that experience, I had been really excited, really open, and the emotions just kept intensifying as I got closer with excitement and joy. And the feeling of I can't wait to be there. I could feel so many things were going to shift for me beyond the other side of that experience. Then the month, I would say probably exactly 4 weeks leading up to my trip and my experience, I was feeling a lot of anxiety and fear. And I want to talk about this because when we have moments of soul growth, or when we have experiences that will and are about to change our lives, that is expansion. But before we can meet expansion to the fullest potential, we tend to experience in our lives contraction, or a big contraction, especially if the experience is so big. We almost meet a balanced, equal contraction to that experience. And boy, did I face a lot of contraction, a lot of fear, a lot of really dense emotions, and a lot of painful experience that actually my body went through. So I wanted to share this and how I moved through that even before getting on the plane to my experience, which I'm really excited to share about with you. So hopefully this video will be condensed and that I can share it all. If not, I will make a part 2. So leading up that first month, I was meeting a lot of anxiety for a few reasons. One, specifically, this happened in February, and the guidelines for travel started to get more strict. We had to have a lot more preparation and paperwork, which tend to be masculine tasks that I don't really enjoy doing and kind of stress me out, especially when doing them on myself. So that was kind of weighing on me. I then started to have fears come up that I didn't even know that I had about doing this on my own. So to let you know, this is actually my first time ever traveling overseas, and I was preparing to do it alone. Yes, I was going to meet my retreat people, the group, the company once I got to Finland, but my whole way there was all me. So that was a new thing that kind of resurfaced. Another thing that resurfaced that has to do with the guidelines is I then started to develop this really intense fear around getting ill or getting sick before my trip, knowing that I had to provide a negative test before boarding on the plane. And this was giving myself a lot of anxiety, and actually some people in the group, which is interesting that we were sharing the same experience. And all of these intense contractions piled one on top of the other, and there are more that were occurring, but all of them started to affect my body. What I was experiencing emotionally and mentally started to affect my body. Another piece of medicine that I want to share with you is when we're not reaching out for the support what we need to move through huge contractions, maybe when we're not tending to our medicine as well as we should be, or using the tools or connecting to the practices, and making an effort to support ourselves or have people come in and support us during contractions, what we feel in our mental and our emotional body will most likely travel into your physical body. So the exact week leading up to my first time ever traveling overseas and this experience, I had a lot of physical contractions. I had my first ever ovarian cyst burst 5 days prior to me leaving. I started to develop a sore throat. And I also, 3 days before my trip, started to receive a really, really intense migraine. And oh my gosh, did that also add to like a new level of fear or worry that I was now being invited into before I made this decision to officially step on the plane and go on this trip. So I had to meet a lot of dark corners about myself. I had to meet and feel a lot of fears and dense emotions. And I moved through them. I took the time and I took the space to reflect on that in a large part, I could have been tending better to my energy, or I could have worked more solidly on shifting some of my perspectives or stories that I was holding on to regarding to some of the fears I had. Trust was a big one. So I got on the plane, and actually I was still feeling a few of the symptoms, like my throat and my head, but I did test negative, so I was good to go. And as soon as I embarked on my trip, and even prior to beginning the official experience, which began 2 days after I made my initial, travel plans, I sat with myself a lot alone, and I did a lot of journaling, and I did a lot of meditating because I wanted to not go into this experience like still holding on to those things, but surrendering to them before I entered into my soul immersion experience with Align Within. So I'm not going to discuss what we did every day or in detail of the experiences that we had together as a group, because I want to respect the confidentiality of all the sisters and brother that were there. But I do want to share some big takeaways that I had based off of my personal experience and what I moved through. So the biggest thing that this retreat taught me was presence. Presence connected to patience has been one of my biggest, I believe, karmic patterns that I am meant to move through in my life. especially this year, it's showing up big as something that I'm really called to heal and move through. And you might be shocked by that because, you know, I have all this medicine and I use all these tools and I'm a guide and I'm a teacher. But yes, I still have my own shadow and my ego, and those will be with me until my last day here on this planet in this body. But I continuously make an effort to work on these, and in a lot of cases I am able to rise above and move through with compassion, with grace, and with ease. But yes, these moments and these patterns do resurface in my life, and that's what I'm here to discover. So something else is, I moving into spirituality, and a big reason why I moved into spirituality is because before, I tend to live in my head a lot. I have a lot of placements that make me a busybody in my head. And before also stepping into spirituality, I did not have good control over my emotions, meaning I wasn't very emotionally mature before stepping into spirituality, or seeing really the true power that my emotions had on me and my world. So just a little backstory to why presence was such a powerful lesson and new perspective that I was able to tap into during this experience based off of my past. So I want to share with you how I cultivated presence in this trip. In some cases I still don't, I've let go of the how, because the experience itself just brought me presence. But now that I've reflected on my experience, I see how that was brought into my life and the special ways that it was brought into my life. The first one was the presence of people, more specifically the presence of sisterhood. Before this trip, I have been living in the state of Florida for a few years, but I still haven't made a lot of close physical friends, and I'm sure a lot of us have felt that kind of experience of being separated from others physically, especially during the past couple of years. But even after, or even as the pandemic began to quiet down more and more and more, and of course there's been waves, but when people started to come out of their homes, they were reconnecting with friends and loved ones, and I still wasn't necessarily doing that because I hadn't felt like I fully met my tribe here yet. But I'm hopeful as we move states that I will soon. And this trip, being surrounded by so many women at a time, and like all living very close together and being with each other every day, and journeying with each other every day, and eating with one another every day, taught me the presence of being with people and how important that medicine is for us, because like when we're alone, we can get into our own head a lot. We can travel in some wild patterns. Being alone can also be really great for growth, but for me, what I was really craving was community, and how community can bring me back to presence with ease. I mean, the entire time when I'm surrounded by people that I'm really connected with and have similarities to me, I have no desire to be on my phone. I have no desire to check in with the world at that moment. I'm here. I'm in this conversation. I'm learning about this person. I'm connecting with this person, and we're sharing similarities and stories. And it was just such a lovely, lovely, lovely experience for me, because I haven't felt that in almost 3 years now. So to experience that every day taught me how beautiful presence with people can be. And the way that I've been implementing that in my life now is, although they're not necessarily like close friends, I've been practicing this with strangers, like being present with the people at the coffee shop or at the grocery store or at the gym. Just like maybe even asking them questions or asking them about their life or saying hello in a new, like, warm, inviting tone, like I want to get to know them, and opening that door. So I'm so grateful for the presence of all the beautiful souls on that retreat. Thank you for teaching me presence in a new way. The second piece of presence that I was able to experience on this trip was the presence of nourishment. Specifically, I am talking about food actually, but I can see nourishment in an abundance of ways. But for me, I think over the past couple of years, being creative in the kitchen has been a little bit hard for me, where I've kind of lost touch with that part of myself, especially after coming from an intense 9-to-5 job where food wasn't very exciting for me. Preparing my lunch meals wasn't fun, knowing that I would have to microwave them every day. And for those of you who are still in a 9-to-5 job, I'm sure you know what I mean. And now that I work for myself, I can cook a lot more for myself, and I can cook a lot more from scratch, but I'm still, getting back into what that gets to be like since it's been so long. And on this trip, we, as part of the payment, we were able to receive a wonderful chef who fed us the most nourishing plant-based meals every day. And not only were they delicious, but they were beautiful to look at too. And also, as someone who has moved through a couple of experiences, really tough experiences with food and loving my body, this experience taught me a whole new way of being present with food. Similarly to the fact that I was on my phone less, or just overall distracted less on this trip, I wasn't distracted with my food. Almost like for the first time in a long time, I was like present with looking at the colors. I even remember, I think I like smelled each meal and drink that was served to me before I ate it, which is something I started to intuitively do because I was so present, but something I've never done before at home. So being present with food, I ate a lot slower on this trip too. I was very intentional with my bites. I took time, again, to like have conversations, to look out my window, to just be present as I digested my food. Like being present in digestion is something I don't think I've ever experienced before either. And yeah, just feeling the taste and really being present with my body to see if I wanted a snack after my meal, or if I wanted dessert, or if I wanted wine. I was very present with asking my body those questions during this trip, and it's still something I'm working on integrating into my life back at home in Florida. So thank you to the chef, and thank you to the amazing food on that trip that I got to experience. The last piece that I want to share is, I think this is one of the most important pieces of this trip, and it's also a piece that complements the other two that I spoke about, and that is being present with the little moments in life. And this was a huge lesson for me to learn, because again, previously to this trip, I was experiencing a lot of emotions or feelings around being very, very hard on myself with the goals I was setting for myself. I tend to be a very ambitious person. I tend to be very goal-oriented. Yes, I have Virgo placements in my astrology chart. And again, a huge part of my karmic lessons and cycles is to focus actually less on the goals. I know some people have the opposite desire, like they are wanting to be more structured, they want to set more goals, they want to hit more things on their list. For me, that's like my autopilot life. For me, it's like always doing something on my to-do list to feel fulfilled, or always focusing on hitting a goal to feel fulfillment. And this trip taught me feeling fulfillment on a whole new level of being present in the little moments. And it's interesting because now I look back on this trip as all of these things, all of this medicine that I share, the food, the people, being present with the little moments, are things I have experienced without this trip and before this trip. But it's definitely been a while. My perspective and my focus definitely have strayed away or became lost on the path in some ways. And it just feels so good to be reminded of that and to come back to that, which I'm so grateful that in this experience, that is how it came through for me. But a reminder that you don't need to do a big retreat to do that. Although it can be lovely and a super awesome way to explore that part of yourself, and maybe it is part of your destiny to do that, like it was for me. But again, it could be, just taking time to reflect on these things, and maybe you had done that in the past, and maybe it's something for you to pick up again. So specifically, some presence in the little moments that I really enjoyed on my trip was the amount of laughter that I had with the souls on this trip, the people that I met, the people who were from Finland that I met, all the workers that were in the chalet, the guides that we had on our trip who were Finnish, the chef, and just some other sweet souls that I got to meet, and just the laughter that we got to share with each other. Adventure was a huge part of our trip, especially the adventurous side of being so close to the Arctic Circle, experiencing a whole new temperature in my body that I haven't felt in so long, especially since living in Florida. Like the cold and wind on my face and my fingers getting numb, and just like that whole wild experience, and being present with like the thrill and chill and adventure of those little moments. And also super importantly was the little moments of really being present with specifically certain emotions that I moved through with that experience. We had a profound day together that we spent talking about really vulnerable topics. And in that experience, I got to cry the hardest I think I've ever cried in the past 5 years. Something that was like so deeply lodged within me that needed to be also witnessed by that group of souls. So was able to be just so present with releasing emotion, feeling again on a whole new level, feeling in connection with other people as well. And of course, the little moments with nature that we got to have. We did tons of hikes in snowshoeing in national parks. We had the opportunity of going to a reindeer farm, and I got to spend time with nature in that way. Again, just like the little excursions and things that we did outside on our own time as well, and just being surrounded by the beautiful and quiet scenery of northern Finland, of Lapland. So yeah, that is my reflections on my trip to Finland. I was able to spend, I believe it was 8 days there, 10 days of travel in total. And I'm still connecting with all the beautiful souls that I got to meet on that trip. This is also my first retreat ever as well, which was so exciting. And yeah, it just really brought me into myself. So I'm just so grateful for the Align Within community for creating this space, Ashley and the team, and I'm grateful for myself for following my message that led me there. And it also has been hugely inspiring for me to want to create my own retreats someday. So stay tuned for that. If you have any questions about my experience or have anything to share about your experience with learning presence, embodying presence, or lessons that you've learned, I'd love to hear them below. And I just want to share that now that I'm back, I have so many really cool opportunities to work together or to embark on some self-paced journeys for yourself and your soul growth on my website. So if you're looking for some really beautiful earth, wild, animal, and magic medicine for you to dive into in the next couple of months, feel free to check out my website. I have a ton of offerings there for you. So it was so great to connect with you guys. I can't wait to make some more YouTube videos for you. Yeah, I'm just really excited for this next chapter, and thank you